The birthday dinner that destroyed everything. A mother's secret revenge. I watched my daughter-in-law smash my birthday plate against the restaurant floor and call me worthless in front of 50 strangers. My son sat there, silent. That was the moment I stopped being the doormat mother who funded their luxury lifestyle in secret. They had no idea I owned everything: their house, their cars, the company paying their bills. They thought I was just a lonely widow with nothing left. They were wrong, and I was about to show them exactly how wrong. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far my story travels. I should have known something was off the second I walked into Giovanni's. The restaurant was one of those downtown Chicago places where every table costs more than most people spend on groceries in a month. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths so crisp they looked like they'd cut you if you touched them wrong, and waiters who moved like they were performing ballet. Adrian had texted me 3 days before, just a simple message. Mom, birthday dinner Saturday at 7. Giovanni's. Don't be late. No, I miss you. No, we need to talk about why we haven't spoken in 2 months. Just instructions, like I was an appointment he'd penciled in between business meetings. Still, I went. Of course I went. He was my son. And maybe, God, I was so stupid. Maybe this meant he was finally ready to let me back in. I wore the navy dress I'd bought specifically for moments like this. Conservative enough not to draw attention, expensive enough that Vanessa couldn't make one of her little comments about me letting myself go. I'd even gotten my hair done that morning, sitting in that salon chair for 2 hours while my stylist worked miracles on the gray I'd been ignoring for months. The hostess led me through the dining room, past tables full of couples leaning close over candlelight, families laughing, people who belonged together. I spotted Adrian and Vanessa before they saw me. They were sitting at a corner table, prime real estate, the kind you have to book weeks in advance. Adrian was checking his phone. Vanessa was examining her nails, each one painted a different shade of cream and gold, probably from that boutique salon she loved posting about on Instagram. Neither of them looked like they were waiting for anyone they actually wanted to see. Mom. Adrian stood when I approached, but the hug was the kind you give a distant relative at a funeral. Stiff, obligatory, over in 2 seconds. You look nice. Happy birthday, Evelyn. Vanessa didn't stand. She gave me one of those smiles that doesn't reach the eyes, the kind that somehow manages to look down on you even when you're standing and she's sitting. Love the dress. Very classic. Classic. That was Vanessa speak for outdated. I sat down, smoothing my napkin across my lap, trying to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. Thank you both for organizing this. It means so much to— We ordered for you already, Vanessa interrupted, signaling the waiter. The salmon. You like salmon, right? I didn't, actually. I was allergic to shellfish and preferred to avoid fish entirely because of cross-contamination risks. I'd mentioned this exactly 4 times at family dinners over the past 3 years. That's fine, I said. Adrian was still on his phone. I waited for him to put it down, to ask how I'd been, to acknowledge that we hadn't spoken since that awful argument in February when Vanessa had uninvited me from Sophie's birthday party because I'd stressed her out by asking if I could bring a cake. But he just scrolled, his face lit up by the blue glow of the screen. So, I tried again, desperate to fill the silence. How are the kids? I saw on Facebook that Liam made the soccer team. You need to stop stalking our social media, Vanessa said. Not loudly, almost conversational. Like she was commenting on the weather. It's weird, Evelyn. Liking every single post, commenting on everything. People notice. Heat crawled up my neck. I just wanted to stay connected, since I don't get to see them much anymore. Well, whose fault is that? I looked at Adrian. He was staring at his wine glass now, swirling the dark liquid like it held the secrets of the universe. Adrian, I said softly, can we talk about what happened? I know things have been tense, but I miss you. I miss the kids. I just want— Mom. He finally looked at me, and something in his expression made my chest tighten. We're not here to rehash old arguments. Can we just have a nice dinner? A nice dinner, like that's what this was. The food came. My salmon looked beautiful, perfectly cooked, garnished with herbs and lemon, plated like art. I picked at it, my appetite gone, while Vanessa talked about the renovation she was planning for their master bathroom. Carrara marble. A soaking tub that cost more than my first car. Heated floors. I knew exactly how much that bathroom renovation cost because I'd seen the invoice 3 weeks ago when I'd reviewed the household accounts. $47,000 for a bathroom. They had no idea I was the one paying for it. That sounds beautiful, I said, because what else could I say? You have such wonderful taste, Vanessa. She smiled, finally looking genuinely pleased. Thank you. It's important to invest in your home, create a space that reflects your values. Values like spending money you didn't earn on things you didn't need, apparently. I pushed a piece of salmon around my plate, watching Adrian check his phone for the dozenth time. This was excruciating. The worst birthday dinner I'd had since Richard died, and that one I'd spent alone in our house with a frozen meal and a bottle of wine I didn't finish. At least then, I'd had dignity. So, Mom, Adrian said suddenly, setting his phone face down on the table, we actually wanted to talk to you about something. Finally. Maybe this was it. The moment when he'd apologize for shutting me out, when we'd clear the air and start rebuilding. Vanessa and I have been talking, he continued, and we think it might be better if you took a step back from the family for a while. The words hit me like cold water. What? You're too involved, Vanessa said, leaning forward like she was explaining something to a child. Every time we turn around, you're there, offering to babysit, asking about the kids' schedules, showing up at school events uninvited. I went to one concert, 3 concerts, Evelyn, and you sat in the front row each time crying. It made Sophie uncomfortable, my granddaughter. 7 years old, with Richard's eyes and my smile. The thought of her being uncomfortable because of me felt like a knife between my ribs. I didn't know, I whispered. Nobody told me, because you don't listen, Adrian said. There was frustration in his voice now, bubbling up like he'd been holding it back. Every conversation becomes about what you want, what you need. You guilt trip us constantly, make us feel bad for having our own lives. Adrian, that's not fair. Isn't it? Vanessa's voice had an edge now. You've been smothering him since his father died. This unhealthy attachment, this need to control everything. I don't try to control anything. The words came out louder than I intended. A couple at the next table glanced over. You show up unannounced, Adrian said. You criticize how Vanessa parents. You undermine our decisions. You told Sophie she could have a puppy without asking us first. She was sad. She just... See? Vanessa gestured at me like I was evidence in a trial. This right here. You don't respect boundaries. You think because you're the grandmother, you can override our parenting. I was trembling now. The restaurant felt too hot, too bright, too full of people who could hear every word of this humiliation. I was just trying to help, I said. My voice sounded small, pathetic even to my own ears. You both work so much, and I thought... You thought you could buy your way into their lives, Vanessa said. The toys, the gifts, the money you keep offering. It's manipulation, Evelyn, and we're done with it. Buy my way in. If she only knew. I love them, I said. I love all of you. I'm sorry if I've overstepped, but please don't cut me out. They're all I have left. Adrian's expression softened slightly, and for a second I thought maybe, that's exactly the problem, Mom, he said quietly. We can't be responsible for filling the hole Dad left. You need to build your own life instead of trying to live through ours. Build my own life. I'd spent 40 years building a life, building a fortune, building a company, building a future for my family while pretending to be nothing more than a housewife who dabbled in charity work. And now my son was telling me I had nothing. I think we should make this official, Vanessa said, pulling a folded paper from her purse. We've drawn up some guidelines. No unannounced visits. No gifts over $50 without approval. Supervised visits with the children only, scheduled at least 2 weeks in advance. She slid the paper across the table. I stared at it. Actual typed rules for how I was allowed to be a grandmother, like I was a dangerous stranger who needed to be managed. Something broke inside me then. Some last thread of hope I'd been clinging to. You're really doing this, I said. Not a question. A statement. On my birthday, in public. You're really... Oh, don't be dramatic, Vanessa said. It's not personal, Evelyn. We're just setting healthy boundaries. Where's the boundary where you stop spending my money? The words were out before I could stop them. Vanessa blinked. Excuse me? I should have shut up. Should have swallowed it down like I'd swallowed everything else for the past 4 years. But I was so tired. So tired of pretending, of diminishing myself, of watching this woman treat me like garbage while living in a house I owned. Nothing, I said. Forget it. No. Adrian's eyes narrowed. What did you mean by that? I said, forget it. This dinner was a mistake. I started to stand. Vanessa's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Hard. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into my skin. Sit. Down. The whole restaurant went quiet. Or maybe it just felt that way. Maybe it was just our little corner of hell that everyone was suddenly watching. You don't get to throw around accusations and then run away, Vanessa hissed. What money? What the hell are you talking about? I tried to pull my wrist free. She held tighter. Vanessa, let go. Answer the question. You're hurting me. Oh my God, always the victim. She released my wrist and stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. Her voice rose, sharp and carrying. You're pathetic. You know that? Absolutely pathetic. Sitting here playing the poor lonely widow while you try to guilt trip us into letting you control our lives. People were definitely staring now. I could feel their eyes like heat on my skin. Vanessa, please, I whispered. Can we not do this here? Why? Embarrassed? Good. You should be embarrassed. You should be ashamed of the way you manipulate everyone around you. She grabbed my plate, the salmon I hadn't touched, and for a moment I thought she was going to hand it to the waiter. Instead, she threw it. The porcelain shattered against the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot. Salmon and capers and lemons scattered everywhere. Sauce splattered across my shoes, my dress, the white tablecloth. The entire restaurant went dead silent. That's what I think of your birthday, Vanessa said, her voice shaking. And that's what I think of you. You're not wanted here, Evelyn. Not by Adrian, not by the kids, not by anyone. So why don't you do us all a favor and just disappear? I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't process what had just happened. Adrian sat there, frozen. His mouth slightly open, his face pale, but he said nothing. Did nothing. Just sat there while his wife destroyed me in front of 50 strangers. The waiter appeared, stammering apologies, asking if everything was okay. A manager materialized, trying to smooth things over, offering to move us to a private room. But I was already standing, already grabbing my purse with shaking hands. Ma'am, please let us clean this up. I'm leaving, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. I walked through that restaurant with sauce on my shoes and every single person watching. Walked past the couples and the families and the people who belonged. Out through the gold-trimmed doors into the Chicago night, where the October air hit my face like a slap. I made it 3 blocks before I had to stop and lean against a building. Then I cried. Right there on the sidewalk, in my ruined navy dress, while the city moved around me like I didn't exist. My son had let his wife humiliate me, had sat there silent while she called me pathetic and unwanted, had let me walk out alone on my 62nd birthday without saying a single word to stop me. That's when I knew. The family I'd sacrificed everything for, the son I'd protected, the grandchildren I'd provided for, the daughter-in-law I'd tolerated for years, had erased me. I was nothing to them. Less than nothing. A wallet. A convenience. A problem to be managed with typed-up guidelines and supervised visits. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands and called the only person I could trust. Leonard, I said when he answered. It's Evelyn. I need you to do something for me. My attorney's voice came through calm and professional, the same voice I'd been hearing for 30 years. Of course. What do you need? I looked back towards Giovanni's, where the lights glowed warm and golden through the windows. Where my son was probably still sitting at that table, finishing his meal, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened. I need you to freeze all the accounts, I said. Every single one linked to Adrian and Vanessa. Credit cards, household expenses, everything. A pause. Evelyn, are you sure? Was I sure? I'd spent 4 years watching Vanessa bleed money I'd earned while treating me like an embarrassing relative they had to tolerate. I'd funded their lifestyle, their renovation, their private schools and vacation homes and luxury cars, all while pretending to be a nobody because I thought it would protect my relationship with my son. And where had that gotten me? A broken plate on a restaurant floor and the word pathetic ringing in my ears. "I'm sure," I said. "Do it Monday morning. And Leonard, I think it's time we had a conversation about transferring some assets. I have plans." When I got home that night, I didn't cry anymore. I poured myself 2 fingers of Richard's bourbon, the expensive bottle we'd been saving for a special occasion that never came, and sat in his study, looking at the framed photos on his desk. Richard had built Mercer Development from nothing, a small real estate company that grew into an empire worth hundreds of millions. Everyone thought it died with him 7 years ago. Even Adrian thought his father's business had dissolved, the assets liquidated to pay estate taxes, leaving me with just enough to live on. They had no idea I'd been the one running it the whole time. Richard had been the face, the name, the charisma, but I'd been the numbers, the strategy, the brain behind every major acquisition. After he died, I didn't let it collapse. I rebuilt it, expanded it, turned it into something even bigger than what we'd started, all in secret. All under corporate veils and holding companies and trusts that kept my name buried so deep, no one would ever connect Evelyn Mercer, widow, to the woman who now controlled half the commercial real estate in downtown Chicago. I'd done it to protect Adrian. I thought if he knew I had money, real money, the kind that changes everything, he'd feel inadequate, like he could never measure up to his father. So I pretended to be small, pretended to struggle, let him think he was supporting me with his occasional phone calls and pity dinners. And then Vanessa came along. She'd been so beautiful at their wedding, so charming. She called me mom from day one, held my hand during the ceremony, talked about how excited she was to be part of our family. The mask started slipping after Sophie was born, little comments about my parenting advice being outdated, suggestions that I was hovering when I came to help with the baby. Slowly, methodically, she cut me out. Turned Adrian against me so gradually he didn't even notice it happening. And I'd let her. Kept writing the checks, kept playing the grateful grandmother, kept diminishing myself smaller and smaller until I was practically invisible. Well, no more. I opened my laptop and pulled up the files Leonard had sent me months ago. Property deeds, account statements, corporate documents. The house Adrian and Vanessa lived in? Mine. I'd bought it through a subsidiary 5 years ago when they were struggling to afford something in a good school district. Let them think they'd gotten a sweetheart deal from a retiring couple. Let Adrian feel proud of providing for his family. Their cars. Leased through one of my companies. The kids' private school tuition? Paid from a scholarship fund I'd established. Vanessa's boutique shopping habits. Her spa memberships. Her monthly girls' trips to Napa Valley? All funded by accounts I'd set up and Adrian had access to, thinking they were part of his performance bonuses from work. I'd been subsidizing their entire life while they treated me like a burden. The bourbon burned going down. I poured another glass. Monday morning, Vanessa was going to try to use her Amex to pay for her regular blowout at that salon she loved. The card would decline. She'd try another card. Same result. She'd call Adrian, panicking, and he'd check the bank accounts only to find them frozen. Then they'd call me, and I wouldn't answer. Let them scramble. Let them panic. Let them feel what it's like when the rug gets pulled out from under you and nobody's there to catch you. I raised my glass to Richard's photo on the desk. "I tried it your way," I said out loud to the empty room. "Kind, patient, self-sacrificing. Look where that got me." His smile stared back at me from the frame, that confident smile that had charmed investors and won contracts and made everyone in a room feel like they were the most important person he'd ever met. "Time to try it my way," I whispered. I spent the rest of the weekend preparing. Called Leonard 4 more times to make absolutely sure every account was flagged, every automatic payment would bounce, every credit line would freeze. Went through my files and pulled every receipt, every bank statement, every piece of evidence showing exactly how much money I'd poured into their life over the past 4 years. The number made me sick. Over $2 million. $2 million I could have used for anything: travel, charity, investing in new properties, literally anything. And I'd spent it propping up 2 people who couldn't even be bothered to say happy birthday without handing me a list of rules about how I was allowed to love my grandchildren. Sunday night, I barely slept. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling, part of me terrified I was making a horrible mistake. The other part so angry I was shaking. Vanessa's words kept echoing. Pathetic. Unwanted. Disappear. At 6 a.m. Monday morning, my phone started ringing. I let it go to voicemail. Adrian's voice came through tight with stress. Mom, call me back. Something's wrong with our accounts. Everything's frozen. I need you to call me back right away. 15 minutes later, another call. Voicemail. Mom, seriously, where are you? Vanessa's freaking out. None of our cards work. Please call me. An hour after that. Mom, I don't know what's happening, but I really need to talk to you. Please. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, let the phone ring and ring and ring. Around 10 a.m., Leonard called. It's done. Every account frozen as of 9 this morning. I've already received 3 calls from Adrian's personal banker. They're panicking. Good, I said. Evelyn, are you absolutely certain about this approach? There are other ways to... I'm certain. All right, then you should know. I did some preliminary digging into their finances like you asked. You're going to want to see this. Some irregularities in Vanessa's personal accounts. Large transfers you definitely didn't authorize. My stomach dropped. How large? I'll send the report this afternoon, but Evelyn, brace yourself. I think this is bigger than just overspending. After I hung up, I finally listened to the voicemails. 12 from Adrian, each one progressively more desperate. 3 from Vanessa, the first 2 demanding I call back immediately. The third one sickeningly sweet. Evelyn, honey, I think there's been some kind of mistake with the banks. Can you call me when you get this? We need to figure this out together. Together, like we were a team. Like she hadn't thrown my dinner plate on the floor 3 days ago. I deleted them all. Around 2 p.m., someone started pounding on my front door. I looked through the peephole. Adrian, red-faced and furious, his tie loose around his neck like he'd driven straight from the office. More pounding. Mom, I know you're in there. Open the door. I stepped back from the peephole. We need to talk about what's happening. The mortgage bounced. The school called about tuition. What the hell is going on? I walked to my study and closed the door, muffling the sound of his shouting. Leonard's email arrived 20 minutes later. I opened the attachment. Then I read it again. And again. Because surely I was misunderstanding. Surely this couldn't be right. But the numbers didn't lie. Over the past 2 years, Vanessa had been systematically siphoning money from the household accounts into private accounts I'd never heard of. Not just thousands, hundreds of thousands. Money that was supposed to go to the kids' college funds, to home maintenance, to normal expenses, luxury hotel stays, first-class flights to destinations she'd never mentioned, jewelry purchases that didn't match anything I'd ever seen her wear. And then, buried in the records, something that made my hands go numb. Regular transfers, weekly, sometimes daily, to a Daniel Kramer. A name I didn't recognize. Leonard had included a note. This pattern is consistent with an affair. The hotel charges line up with his business travel schedule. I'm still digging, but this doesn't look good. An affair. Vanessa was having an affair, and funding it with money that ultimately came from me. I sat there in Richard's chair, in the study where he'd planned the future he thought we'd have together, staring at evidence that my daughter-in-law wasn't just cruel. She was a thief, a liar. A woman who'd been playing my son for a fool while bleeding his mother dry. And Adrian had no idea. My phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Fine, don't answer. But we're coming over tomorrow. You owe me an explanation. No, I thought. I don't owe you anything. But you're about to owe me some answers. I forwarded Leonard's report to a secure folder, then called him back. I need you to dig deeper into Daniel Kramer. Everything. Who he is, what he does, how they met. And I need documentation on every penny that went into those accounts. Dates, amounts, everything that will hold up if this goes legal. You're thinking divorce? I'm thinking my son deserves to know who he married. Evelyn, be careful. When people get cornered, they get dangerous. Let them try, I said. I've been dangerous my whole life. I just hid it better. That night, I didn't sleep at all, just sat in the dark, thinking about Saturday night, about Vanessa's face when she called me pathetic, about Adrian's silence. They thought I was nothing, a weak-old woman they could push around and dismiss. Tomorrow they were going to learn exactly how wrong they were. And this was just the beginning. They showed up at 9:30 the next morning. I watched through the upstairs window as Adrian's Tesla pulled into my driveway, one of those sleek black models that probably cost 90 grand. Vanessa was in the passenger seat, her face hidden behind oversized sunglasses even though the sky was gray and threatening rain. I'd been awake since 5. Showered, dressed in slacks and a crisp white blouse. Made myself look put together because I'd learned a long time ago that armor comes in many forms, and sometimes it's as simple as looking like you have your shit together when everything's falling apart. The pounding started before I even made it downstairs. "Mom, open up!" I took my time, checked my reflection in the hallway mirror, smoothed my hair. Let them wait. When I finally opened the door, Adrian pushed past me without even saying hello. Vanessa followed, and the look on her face was pure venom barely contained behind a mask of concern. "We need to talk," Adrian said. He was pacing my living room like a caged animal, running his hands through his hair. "Right now. What the hell did you do?" "Good morning to you too," I said, closing the door softly. "Coffee?" "I don't want coffee. I want answers." He spun around to face me. "Every account is frozen. The mortgage payment bounced. Vanessa's cards aren't working. The school called and said tuition didn't go through. What did you do?" I walked past him into the kitchen. Put the kettle on because I wanted tea and because making them wait was a small pleasure I was going to allow myself. "I didn't do anything. I simply stopped doing something." "What does that mean?" Vanessa appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. She'd taken off the sunglasses. Her eyes were hard. "Cut the cryptic bullshit, Evelyn. What did you do to our accounts?" "Your accounts?" I turned to face her. Interesting choice of words. "Mom." Adrian's voice had that warning tone he used to use when he was a teenager and thought he was in trouble. "This isn't a game. We have bills, responsibilities. The kids." "The kids are fine," I interrupted. "They're at school right now, aren't they? Learning, safe, completely unaware that their parents are having a financial crisis." "A crisis you caused," Vanessa snapped. "No." I poured hot water over my tea bag, watching the color bleed out into the cup. A crisis I stopped preventing. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Adrian moved closer, and I could see the panic starting to crack through his anger. "What are you talking about?" I carried my tea to the kitchen table and sat down. Didn't invite them to join me. Just sat there, taking a sip, letting them stand. "When's the last time you actually looked at where your money comes from, Adrian?" His face went blank. "What? Your salary covers what, maybe 60% of your lifestyle? 70 on a good year?" I took another sip. "So where does the rest come from? The house that's twice what you could afford on your income? The private school tuition? Vanessa's shopping habits?" I watched the realization start to dawn on his face. Watched him do the math he'd never bothered to do before. "The bonuses," he said slowly. "My performance bonuses from work are real, yes, but they're not as big as you think. Check your actual pay stubs sometime." I set down my cup. "The household account you both have access to, the one that always seems to have money in it no matter how much gets spent, that's not from your job, sweetheart. That's from me." Vanessa laughed, actually laughed. "That's insane. You're living off what Richard left you. You don't have that kind of money." "Don't I?" Something in my voice made her smile falter. I stood up and walked to Richard's study, pulled out the folder I'd prepared, came back and dropped it on the table. "These are property deeds, account statements, corporate documents. I suggest you read them carefully." Adrian opened the folder with shaking hands. I watched his eyes scan the first page, watched the color drain from his face. "This says you own our house." "I do." That's not possible. We bought it from the Hendersons 5 years ago. You bought it from Mercer Holdings, LLC, which is owned by Mercer Development Group, which is owned by me." I sat back down. "The Hendersons were retiring to Florida. I bought their house through a subsidiary, then sold it to you at a significant loss. You got a sweetheart deal because I made sure you did." Vanessa grabbed the folder, started flipping through pages faster and faster, her face going pale beneath her makeup. "The cars," Adrian whispered. "The leases. Mine. Through another subsidiary, below market rates. The kids' school, scholarship fund I established and administer, full tuition for both children. But you said You told me you were struggling after Dad died, that the business dissolved, that you had to sell everything. I lied. The words came out flat, simple. I lied to protect you from feeling inadequate. I thought if you knew I had money, real money, you'd feel like you could never measure up to your father. So I pretended to be a widow living on what Richard left me while I secretly rebuilt everything he'd started and made it bigger than he ever dreamed. Adrian sank into a chair like his legs had given out. How much? How much what? How much money do you have? I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. More than you've spent. Less than you think. Enough that freezing your accounts won't even dent my lifestyle, but will completely destroy yours. Vanessa slammed the folder down. You can't do this. You can't just cut us off without warning. Can I? It's my money. I can do whatever I want with it. I met her eyes. Tell me, Vanessa, what exactly have you done to deserve it? Besides call me pathetic in a restaurant full of people? Her jaw clenched. That was a mistake. I was stressed. You threw my dinner plate on the floor and told me to disappear. And I apologized. No, actually you didn't. You haven't said a single word about it until just now, and that wasn't an apology. That was an excuse. Adrian was staring at the papers like they might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Why didn't you tell me? All these years, why didn't you just tell me the truth? Because I wanted you to be proud of yourself. To build your own life without my shadow hanging over everything. My voice cracked despite my best efforts. I wanted you to choose to have me in your life because you loved me, not because you needed my money. So this is punishment, Vanessa said, because we hurt your feelings. No, this is consequences. Because you decided I was worthless and treated me accordingly, never realizing that I've been subsidizing every luxury you take for granted. Adrian looked up at me, and there was something broken in his expression. What do you want from us? What did I want? I'd been asking myself that question for 3 days. An apology? Groveling? Proof that they actually gave a damn about me as a person and not just as a checkbook? But looking at them now, Adrian panicking about his lifestyle, Vanessa calculating how to manipulate her way back into my good graces, I realized the truth. There was nothing they could give me that would fix this. I want you to figure out how to live within your actual means, I said. I want you to understand what it feels like when someone you love pulls the rug out from under you. And I want you to leave my house. Mom, get out. Vanessa grabbed Adrian's arm. We're not going anywhere until this gets resolved. You don't get to just, this is my house. I'm asking you to leave. If you refuse, I'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing. Adrian stood slowly. You wouldn't. I picked up my phone, started dialing. Jesus Christ. He grabbed Vanessa's hand. Fine, we're going. But this isn't over, Mom. We need to talk about this. We just did. The accounts stay frozen until I decide otherwise, which might be never. I kept my voice level. You have 30 days to make your mortgage payment, or the bank will start foreclosure proceedings. I suggest you figure out how to manage that on your actual salary. Vanessa's face twisted with rage. You spiteful bitch. Careful, I said softly. I own your house. I can evict you with 30 days' notice. Keep talking, and I'll make it 15. They left. Vanessa slammed my front door hard enough to rattle the windows. I sat at my kitchen table and cried into my tea. Because winning didn't feel like winning. It felt like losing my son all over again. The rest of that day passed in a blur. I tried to distract myself with work. Actual work, the kind that involved reviewing development proposals and approving construction budgets. But I couldn't focus. Kept checking my phone like Adrian might call back, might apologize, might show even a shred of understanding about why I'd done what I did. He didn't call. Leonard did, though. Around 3 in the afternoon. I have more information about Daniel Kramer, he said without preamble. Are you sitting down? I wasn't. I sat. Tell me. He's a consultant, marketing and brand strategy, based in New York but travels frequently to Chicago for clients. Married, 2 kids, and he's been having an affair with Vanessa for approximately 18 months. 18 months. A year and a half of my daughter-in-law screwing another man while spending my money. How sure are you? Very. Hotel records place them in the same cities on the same dates. Credit card statements show couples' spa packages, romantic dinners, gifts. She's been using a secondary account, one not linked to Adrian's name, to fund these trips. He paused. Evelyn, there's more. Recent flight bookings. 2 one-way tickets to Barcelona. Departing 3 weeks from now. My stomach dropped. She's planning to run. It looks that way. The tickets are for her and Kramer. No return date. And there's been significant money movement in the past month. She's been liquidating assets, moving cash into offshore accounts Adrian doesn't have access to. What about the kids? Silence. Leonard, what about Sophie and Liam? There are no tickets for them, he said quietly. Just the 2 adults. I thought I was going to be sick. She's leaving them. We don't know that for certain. She might be planning to send for them later, or she's planning to abandon her children and run off with her lover using money stolen from their grandmother. My hands were shaking. Does Adrian know? I doubt it. These accounts are well hidden. She's been careful. I closed my eyes. Adrian might be a fool for marrying her and a coward for letting her isolate him from me. But he loved those kids. Loved them completely. Finding out Vanessa was planning to leave all of them would destroy him. Send me everything, I said. Every receipt, every hotel booking, every transfer. I want documentation that will hold up in court. What are you planning? I'm planning to make sure my son knows exactly who he married before she can do any more damage. After I hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness of my living room and thought about what this meant. Vanessa wasn't just cruel or manipulative. She was actively planning to blow up her family and disappear with another man and a fortune she'd stolen. And I was probably the only person who could stop her. My phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. We need to talk. Tomorrow. My office. 2 p.m. Not a request, a summons. Like I was an employee being called in for a performance review. I typed back, no. My house. 10 a.m. Both of you. Non-negotiable. His response came fast. Can't do 10. Meetings all morning. Then I guess we're not talking. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Fine. 10 a.m. I spent that evening preparing, printed out every document Leonard had sent, organized them chronologically, built a timeline that even Adrian in denial couldn't ignore. Hotel, Chicago. Ritz-Carlton, February 14th. Room charged to Vanessa's private account. Security footage would show her entering with a man who wasn't her husband. The same night, Adrian thought she was at a girls' spa weekend. Flight records. New York JFK to Chicago O'Hare, March 3rd. Vanessa's ticket and Daniel Kramer's ticket, purchased together, seated together. Restaurant receipts, dozens of them. Expensive places. Romantic places. The kind you go to when you're trying to impress someone. Wire transfers. Hundreds of thousands of dollars moving from household accounts into private accounts, then into offshore holdings in the Cayman Islands. And the kicker? Those 2 one-way tickets to Barcelona. Departure date, November 2nd. 3 weeks away. I laid everything out on my dining room table, made a pot of strong coffee. Didn't sleep. At 9:45 the next morning, I heard a car pull up. Looked out the window expecting to see Adrian's Tesla. Instead, Vanessa was alone. She marched up to my door and knocked. Not pounding this time. A calm, controlled knock. I opened the door but didn't step back to let her in. Where's Adrian? Running late. He'll be here soon. She smiled and it made my skin crawl. Can we talk? Just us, woman to woman. Every instinct I had screamed not to let her in, but I was curious. What game was she playing now? I stepped aside. She walked past me into the living room, looked around like she was evaluating the place for resale value. Nice house, she said. Smaller than I expected for someone who apparently owns half of Chicago. What do you want, Vanessa? She turned to face me, and the smile was gone. I want to make a deal. A deal? You unfreeze the accounts. We go back to the way things were, and I'll convince Adrian to let you see the kids more often. Supervised visits, but more frequently. Everyone wins. I almost laughed. You think I want to negotiate with you? I think you want access to your grandchildren, and I'm the only one who can give you that. She moved closer. Adrian listens to me, Evelyn. He trusts me. One word from me and you'll never see Sophie or Liam again. Or I can make things easier. Your choice. My choice. I walked to the dining room, gestured at the table covered in documents. Come here. I want to show you something. She followed, confidence radiating off her like cheap perfume. Then she saw the papers, the photos, the timeline. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might actually faint. Where did you get these? Does it matter? I picked up a hotel receipt. The Ritz. Nice choice. Richard and I stayed there for our 20th anniversary. You can't. This is private. This is evidence of an affair, of theft, of fraud. I picked up the flight confirmations. Barcelona. Lovely this time of year. Were you planning to send for the kids eventually, or were you just going to abandon them? She grabbed for the papers. I pulled them back. Adrian will never believe you, she said, but her voice shook. He loves me. He'll think you're making this up to get revenge. Will he? I pulled out my phone, opened the photo Leonard had sent me. Security camera footage from the Ritz, time-stamped and dated. Vanessa walking into the hotel lobby. A man's arm around her waist, the two of them kissing in the elevator. Her face went white. I can explain. Don't bother. Save it for Adrian. He'll be here any minute. The panic in her eyes was almost satisfying. Almost. How much do you want? She said suddenly. To make this go away. Name a price. There isn't one. Everyone has a price. $1 million? $2 million? I can get the money. From where? The offshore accounts you've been hiding? The ones you plan to use to fund your new life with Daniel Kramer? I stepped closer. I know everything, Vanessa. Every lie, every theft, every betrayal. And in about... I checked my watch. 5 minutes. Your husband is going to know it too. She lunged at me. Actually lunged, trying to grab my phone, scratch at my face, something. I stepped back and she stumbled, catching herself on the table. You bitch, she hissed. You miserable, interfering bitch. This is all your fault. If you just stayed away from us, if you just left us alone, if I'd left you alone, you'd have bled me dry and abandoned my grandchildren without a second thought. They're my children. Are they? Because the woman I'm looking at doesn't love those kids. She sees them as leverage, as tools to manipulate Adrian and access to my money. You don't know anything about me, and I know you're a con artist who saw a vulnerable man grieving his father and decided to lock him down before he figured out what you really are. I know you've been systematically isolating him from anyone who might see through your act. And I know that if I'd stayed silent, you'd have destroyed him completely and walked away without looking back. The sound of a car door slamming made us both freeze. Adrian, finally. Vanessa grabbed my wrist, her nails digging in. Please don't do this. I'll leave. I'll disappear. You'll never have to see me again. Just don't tell him. Please. For a second, just a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered my birthday dinner, the shattered plate, the word pathetic. I pulled my wrist free. He deserves to know the truth. The front door opened. Mom? Vanessa? Where are you? Adrian walked into the dining room, loosening his tie, looking harried and stressed. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was... He stopped, looked at the table covered in evidence, looked at Vanessa's face. What's going on? I picked up the Barcelona flight confirmations and handed them to him. Your wife is leaving you, I said quietly. She's been planning it for months, and she's been stealing from both of us to fund it. The next 10 minutes were the worst of my life, and I'd buried a husband and watched my mother die of cancer. Adrian read the flight confirmations, then the hotel receipts, then the bank statements. His hands started shaking, his breathing got weird. At one point I thought he might actually throw up. Vanessa tried to explain, tried to spin it, tried to make it sound like the affair meant nothing, like the money was just her being careful with finances, like the tickets were for a work thing she forgot to mention. But the evidence didn't lie, and even Adrian, who'd been blind for so long, couldn't ignore what was right in front of him. 18 months, he said finally. His voice sounded hollow. Dead. You've been fucking someone else for 18 months. Adrian, please. While I thought we were happy, while I was working 60-hour weeks to provide for our family, while my mother, his voice cracked, while my mother was secretly paying for everything because I wasn't enough. That's not true. Which part? The affair? The stealing? Or the part where you were going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars and disappear? He looked at the flight confirmations again. 2 tickets. Just 2. Where were Sophie and Liam supposed to go, Vanessa? She said nothing. Answer me! I'd never heard Adrian yell like that. Never seen that look on his face. Pure betrayal mixed with rage, mixed with something that looked like grief. I was going to send for them, Vanessa whispered. Once I got settled, I was going to… Liar. The word came out flat. You were going to abandon your own children. I wasn't. I would never… Get out. She blinked. What? Get out of my mother's house. Get out of my life. Get the fuck out before I do something I'll regret. Adrian, you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in 4 years. He grabbed her purse from the chair and shoved it at her. Leave. Now. Before I call the police and have you arrested for fraud. You wouldn't… Try me. She looked at me, like I might intervene, like I might save her. I said nothing. Vanessa grabbed her purse and ran. We heard the front door slam, heard her car start and peel out of the driveway. Then Adrian sat down at my dining room table and put his head in his hands, and cried. I stood there, frozen, not knowing what to do, not knowing if he'd even want comfort from me after everything. But then his shoulders started shaking harder, and I couldn't help myself. I walked over and put my hand on his back, just rested it there. He didn't pull away. I'm so sorry, he choked out. Mom, I'm so sorry. For everything, for letting her treat you that way, for not standing up for you, for being so blind. Shh, it's okay. It's not okay. Nothing about this is okay. He looked up at me, his face blotchy and wet. You were right, about all of it, and I chose her. Over and over, I chose her, even when she was destroying us. I pulled out the chair next to him and sat down. She was very good at manipulation. You're not the first man to fall for it. But you saw through her. From the beginning, you saw what she was. I had more practice spotting liars. I took his hand. Your father wasn't perfect, Adrian. He made mistakes, had affairs in the early years of our marriage. I learned to recognize the signs. He stared at me. Dad cheated on you? Twice that I know of. We worked through it. He stopped. But I never forgot what it felt like to be fooled by someone you trust. I squeezed his hand. I didn't tell you about Vanessa because I knew you wouldn't believe me. You had to see it yourself. So you set all this up. The frozen accounts, the investigation. I protected myself. And in doing so, I exposed her. Those aren't the same thing, but I'm not going to pretend I didn't hope you'd wake up. He was quiet for a long time. Just sat there, holding my hand, staring at nothing. Finally, he said, What do I do now? You get a lawyer, you file for divorce, you fight for custody of your children, and you rebuild your life without her. I can't afford a lawyer, not without… He gestured helplessly at the frozen account statements. I'll pay for it, the best divorce attorney in Chicago, and you and the kids are moving in here. His head snapped up. What? You heard me. The house you're living in is mine. I'll evict her if I have to, but you and Sophie and Liam are moving in here where I can help you figure this out. Mom, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling you. This is what family does. Real family. Not the fake version Vanessa was selling. Fresh tears spilled down his face. I don't deserve this. After how I treated you. Probably not, I agreed. But I'm giving it to you anyway. He hugged me then. Actually hugged me. Not the stiff obligatory thing from the restaurant, but a real embrace like I hadn't felt from him since before Richard died. And I held my son while he fell apart, and thought about how sometimes you have to break everything to have any hope of putting it back together right. The hardest part wasn't confronting Vanessa, or even watching Adrian break down. The hardest part came 3 hours later when we had to tell Sophie and Liam that their lives were about to explode. Adrian picked them up from school himself, something he hadn't done in months because he was always too busy with work. I watched from my front window as they climbed out of his car, Sophie with her purple backpack covered in unicorn stickers, Liam dragging his feet because 7-year-old boys apparently didn't walk normally. They shuffled and kicked at invisible things. They had no idea their mother was gone. No idea their father had been crying for hours. No idea their whole world had shifted while they were learning fractions and spelling words. Sophie saw me through the window and waved. That big gap-toothed smile that looked so much like Adrian's baby pictures, it made my chest hurt. I waved back and wondered how the hell we were going to do this without destroying them. Adrian brought them inside. Liam immediately ran for my kitchen because I always kept the good snacks. The organic fruit strips Vanessa claimed were too expensive while charging $400 dinners to accounts I funded. "Grandma!" Sophie hugged my waist. "Dad said we're having a sleepover here tonight, like a surprise." "That's right, sweetie. Where's Mom? Is she coming too?" Adrian and I exchanged looks. His eyes were still red-rimmed, his face blotchy. Sophie was 8, old enough to notice her father looked wrong. "Mom had to go somewhere," Adrian said. His voice came out steadier than I expected. "For work. Last-minute thing. So you guys are going to stay with Grandma for a few days." "A few days?" Liam appeared with a mouthful of fruit strips. "What about my soccer game Saturday?" "We'll figure it out, buddy. But Mom always brings the orange slices." The casual way he said it, like Vanessa's absence was only important because of orange slices, broke something in Adrian's expression. He turned away, pretending to look at something on his phone. I jumped in. "I can bring orange slices, and I bet I can bring better snacks than your mom usually does." Liam's eyes lit up. "Can you bring those cookies, the chocolate ones from that bakery?" "Absolutely." Crisis averted. For now. That night, after the kids were asleep in my guest rooms, Sophie in the one with the yellow walls, Liam in the blue one that still had some of Adrian's old stuff in the closet, Adrian and I sat in the kitchen drinking wine we both needed and probably shouldn't have. "I don't know how to tell them," he said. "What do I even say? Your mother's a cheating thief who was planning to abandon you?" "You don't say that. You say Mom and Dad are having problems and need some time apart. You keep it simple, age appropriate. And when they ask when she's coming back?" I didn't have an answer for that. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then threw it across the kitchen. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. "Vanessa?" I asked. 15 texts, each one more pathetic than the last. He refilled his wine glass, his hands shaking. "She wants to talk things through. Says I'm overreacting. That the affair didn't mean anything and she was going to cancel the Barcelona trip anyway." "Do you believe her?" "I don't know what I believe anymore." He drank half the glass in one swallow. 4 years, Mom. 4 years I spent with this woman, built a life with her, had children with her, and I didn't see it, any of it. She was good at hiding it. Or I was good at being blind. He looked at me. "You tried to warn me, not directly, but I could tell you didn't like her. And I just wrote it off as you being overprotective, difficult, unable to let go." "I was difficult sometimes," I admitted. "I did hover. After your father died, you were all I had left, and I held on too tight. But you were right about her." Being right doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. We sat in silence for a while. The house made settling noises around us. Upstairs, I could hear Liam talking in his sleep. He always did that, full conversations with people who weren't there. "I called Marcus today," Adrian said finally. Marcus Chen was the best divorce attorney in Chicago. I'd given Adrian his number that afternoon. "He can see us tomorrow. He said with the evidence you compiled, we have a strong case for fault divorce and full custody." "Good. He also said it's going to get ugly. Vanessa won't go quietly." "I didn't expect her to." Adrian laughed, but it sounded broken. "You know what the worst part is? I still love her. Even after everything, even knowing what she did, there's this stupid part of me that wishes I could fix this. Make it work somehow. That's normal. Love doesn't just shut off because someone betrays you. How long did it take you? With Dad? When he cheated? I thought about it, really thought about it. Honestly, I'm not sure I ever stopped loving him completely. I stopped trusting him the same way, stopped believing in the fairy tale. But love? That's stickier, messier. It hangs around long after it should leave." "Great. So I'm going to feel like shit forever." "No. You're going to feel like shit for a while. Then one day you'll realize you went a whole hour without thinking about her. Then a whole day. Then you'll meet someone else, or you won't. But either way, you'll build a new life, and this will just be a really painful chapter." "Is that what happened with you and Dad?" "More or less. Though I never met anyone else. Richard was it for me, flaws and all." I reached across the table and took his hand. "But you're not me. You're young. You have time to find someone who actually deserves you. Right now, I can't imagine trusting anyone ever again." "I know, but you will. Eventually." His phone buzzed again from where it had landed. He didn't move to get it. "Tomorrow I'm going to the house," he said. "I need to pack things for the kids. Clothes, toys, their stuff. Before Vanessa changes the locks or something crazy. You want me to come with you? Yeah, I think I do. The next morning, we left Sophie and Liam with my neighbor Carol, a retired teacher who loved kids and asked no questions when I showed up at 7:30 with two confused children and a desperate request for babysitting. Then Adrian and I drove to the house I owned that he'd thought was his. Vanessa's car was in the driveway. Shit, Adrian muttered. I thought she'd be gone by now. Want to come back later? No, let's just get this over with. We used Adrian's key. The house smelled like Vanessa's perfume, that expensive French stuff she ordered online. Everything looked normal, pristine even, like a staged home in a magazine, which made sense because Vanessa had always cared more about appearances than actual living. She was in the kitchen, standing at the island with a cup of coffee, still in her pajamas. When she saw us, her face did this complicated thing where it tried on several expressions at once: defiant, wounded, angry, apologetic, before settling on something that might have been relief. Adrian, her voice was soft, careful. I was hoping you'd come. We're here for the kids' things, that's all. Can we please talk, just for 5 minutes? There's nothing to talk about. Please. She moved toward him. I made a mistake, a huge, terrible mistake. But it's over. I ended things with Daniel last night, canceled the tickets. I want to fix this. I want to fix us. Adrian's jaw clenched. You ended things with your lover. Congratulations. You want a medal? I want my husband back. I want my family. Her eyes filled with tears. Perfect photogenic tears that probably would have worked on him a week ago. I know I hurt you. I know I messed up. But people make mistakes, Adrian. They cheat. They lie. And then they work through it and come out stronger. Work through it? You were stealing from my mother to fund an affair. You were planning to abandon our children. I wasn't going to abandon them. How many times do I have to say it? I was confused, overwhelmed. Daniel said things that made me think. She caught herself. It doesn't matter what he said. What matters is I chose you. I'm choosing you right now. I watched Adrian's face, watched him waver. Because that's what abusers do. They make you doubt your own reality until you don't trust anything except their version of events. Adrian, I said quietly, remember what we discussed? Vanessa's eyes cut to me. The tears vanished like they'd never existed. Of course you're here, poisoning him against me. I don't need to poison him. You did that yourself. This is between me and my husband, your husband who you stole from, your husband who you cheated on for 18 months. Your husband who you were planning to leave with nothing. I never stole anything. That money was in our household account. I had every right. Right? You had access to money I provided, I interrupted. Money you knew came from me, even if you pretended not to. And you used it to fund a secret life with another man. You can't prove that. I pulled out my phone, showed her the offshore account statements Leonard had uncovered. Actually, I can. These accounts in the Cayman Islands, the ones with your name on them, the transfers that perfectly match withdrawals from the household account, a forensic accountant would have a field day with this. The blood drained from her face. And that's just the financial fraud, I continued. We haven't even gotten into the alienation of affection, the parental manipulation, the systematic isolation of my son from his family. You're not just a cheater, Vanessa. You're a con artist. And you picked the wrong family to con. She turned to Adrian, desperation replacing the earlier performance. Are you really going to let her do this? Let your mother destroy our marriage? You destroyed our marriage, Adrian's voice cracked. You did this, not her, not me, you. Because you were never enough. The words exploded out of her. You were never enough, Adrian. Working your meaningless job, making your mediocre salary, thinking you were providing for us when really you were just playing house with mommy's money. The silence that followed was absolute. Adrian's face went white, then red, then white again. There it is, he said quietly. The truth. Finally, Vanessa seemed to realize what she'd said. I didn't mean, yes, you did. You meant every word. He walked past her toward the stairs. I'm getting my kids' things. Don't follow me. Adrian, please. I said don't follow me. She flinched. Then her eyes landed on me, and whatever control she'd been holding on to shattered completely. This is your fault, she hissed. All of it. If you just stayed out of our lives. If you just kept your money and your opinions to yourself. Oh. Then what? You'd have successfully stolen everything and disappeared? You'd have destroyed my son and abandoned my grandchildren without anyone stopping you? I stepped closer. I stayed out of your life for 4 years. Let you isolate my son. Let you spend my money. Let you play queen of the castle in a house I owned. And you still weren't satisfied. You still needed more. I needed to get away from you. Her voice rose. From your judgment, your hovering, your constant presence in our lives. I saw you twice in the past 6 months before that dinner. Twice. If that's constant presence to you, your definition needs work. You were always there. In Adrian's head, in his guilt, making him feel bad for having his own family. No, I said firmly. That was your work. You made him feel bad. You made him choose between his mother and his wife. And then you made sure he chose you so you'd have complete control. And it worked, for a while. Until you got greedy. Footsteps on the stairs. Adrian coming back down with 2 suitcases and a garbage bag full of stuffed animals. Vanessa grabbed his arm. Where are you taking their things? To my mother's house, where we're staying. You can't just take my children. Our children, and yes, I can. I'm their father. I'll call the police, report you for kidnapping. Go ahead, I said. I'm sure they'll be very interested in your offshore accounts and your plans to flee the country. She dropped Adrian's arm, started backing up. You're both insane. I'm not the villain here. I'm the victim. I've been trapped in this marriage, suffocated by his neediness and your interference. Save the speech for your lawyer, Adrian said. You're going to need one. Marcus Chen is filing divorce papers tomorrow. Fault divorce. Adultery, fraud, and abandonment. He seems to think we have an excellent case. You bastard. Funny. I was thinking the same thing about you. He walked out. I followed. Left Vanessa standing in that perfect kitchen in that perfect house, surrounded by all the perfect things she'd bought with money she'd stolen, looking nothing like the confident woman who'd thrown my dinner plate 5 days earlier. In the car, Adrian gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. Did you hear what she said? That I was never enough? I heard. 4 years I killed myself trying to be enough for her. Worked overtime, skipped the gym, missed my friends. All so she could have the life she wanted, and I was never enough. Because there was no amount of enough that would satisfy her. People like Vanessa, they're bottomless pits. You pour everything you have into them, and they just want more. I should have seen it sooner. Maybe, but you see it now, that's what matters. He was quiet for a long moment, then, thank you. For what? For not saying I told you so. Oh, I'm thinking it, very loudly. I'm just polite enough not to say it out loud. He laughed. Actually, laughed. It sounded rusty, like he'd forgotten how, but it was real. The next 2 weeks were a special kind of hell. Vanessa hired a lawyer, some shark from downtown who specialized in high-conflict divorces. He immediately filed for emergency custody, claiming Adrian had abducted the children and I was an unfit influence due to my vindictive behavior and unstable emotional state. The hearing was a joke. Marcus showed up with binders full of evidence, hotel receipts, bank statements, the offshore accounts, witness statements from people who'd seen Vanessa with Daniel Kramer. The judge took one look at the Barcelona flight confirmations and denied her petition. But she didn't stop. She showed up at Sophie's school, crying, begging to take her daughter to lunch. The school called Adrian. He called the police. By the time they arrived, Vanessa was screaming in the parking lot about her rights as a mother, while Sophie watched through the classroom window. She posted on Facebook that I'd brainwashed her husband and stolen her children. 300 people liked it. Her friends, the other wealthy North Shore moms she brunched with, left comments about what a strong woman she was, how they'd always known there was something off about Adrian's family. She called my house 20 times a day, left voicemails that started apologetic and ended threatening. I'll destroy you, both of you. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Adrian changed his number. I kept mine because I wanted to know what she was planning. The kids handled it the way kids handle trauma, badly but creatively. Sophie started having nightmares. Liam started wetting the bed again, something he hadn't done since he was 4. They asked about their mother constantly. When was she coming back? Why was she mad? Was it their fault? That last question destroyed Adrian every time. Nobody, he'd say, kneeling down to Liam's level. None of this is your fault. Mom and Dad are having grown-up problems, but it has nothing to do with you. Then why can't we see her? How do you explain to a 7-year-old that his mother chose another man over him? That she was planning to leave him? You don't. You lie. You say it's complicated, and they'll understand when they're older, and you hope to hell that's true. Meanwhile, Leonard kept digging. Turns out Vanessa's affair with Daniel Kramer wasn't her first rodeo. There'd been another man 2 years ago, a personal trainer she'd been seeing 3 times a week. The charges on the household account listed as gym membership were actually hotel rooms. Before that, a business consultant she'd met at a networking event. Same pattern. Secret meetings, hidden accounts, money disappearing into places Adrian never knew to look. How many? Adrian asked when Leonard presented the findings. His voice was flat, dead. How many men? That I can prove? 3. But the pattern suggests there could be more. Adrian stood up from the table and walked out of the room. I heard the bathroom door close, heard water running, heard nothing else for 10 minutes. When he came back, his face was composed, blank, like he'd locked everything painful away behind a wall. Keep digging, he told Leonard. I want to know everything, every lie, every affair, every penny she stole. I want to bury her so deep she never crawls out. That's when I knew my son had finally stopped loving her. 3 weeks after the confrontation, Vanessa's lawyer called Marcus with an offer. She'd give up the custody fight, walk away from the marriage. All she wanted was a financial settlement and her freedom. How much? Adrian asked. $2 million. Adrian laughed. Actually laughed. She stole $2 million from my mother, and now she wants $2 million to go away? It's a negotiating tactic, Marcus explained. We counter with nothing. Let her know she's lucky we're not pressing criminal charges. I want to press criminal charges. Marcus and I exchanged looks. Adrian, I said carefully, if we press charges, this becomes public. Criminal trial, newspapers, the whole thing. Sophie and Liam would have to testify eventually. Do you really want to put them through that? His jaw worked. No. Then we let her walk, give her enough to disappear, and make it clear she's never welcome back. How much is enough? I thought about it, about what Vanessa deserved versus what would make her go away. 50,000. Take it, or we pursue criminal charges and she gets nothing. That's generous, Leonard said. That's strategic, I corrected. She takes 50,000 and signs away all parental rights, or she risks prison and loses everything. Easy choice. It took 2 more weeks of negotiation, but eventually Vanessa's lawyer called back. His client would accept the terms. 50,000, full relinquishment of parental rights, and a gag order preventing her from discussing the family publicly or contacting the children until they turned 18. The day she signed the papers, I felt nothing. No triumph, no relief. Just this empty space where anger used to be. Adrian felt differently. She's really gone, he said, staring at the signed documents. She signed away her own children for $50,000. She signed away consequences for $50,000, I corrected. The children were never really hers, not in any way that mattered. What do I tell Sophie and Liam? The truth, eventually, age-appropriate versions of it. For now, you tell them Mom needs to be away for a while, maybe a long while, and that it's okay to miss her and be angry and confused, because those are all normal feelings. What if they hate me for keeping her away? Then they hate you and you deal with it, and eventually they understand. You're the parent, Adrian. You don't get to be their friend right now. You have to be the adult who protects them, even when it hurts. He nodded slowly. When did you get so wise? Around the time my daughter-in-law threw a plate at my feet and called me pathetic. That got a small smile. But later that night, after the kids were asleep and Adrian was in the shower, I sat alone in Richard's study and finally let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. I'd won. Vanessa was gone. Adrian and the kids were safe. Justice, or something close to it, had been served. So why did I feel so hollow? Maybe because winning meant my son's marriage was destroyed. My grandchildren's mother had abandoned them. My family was broken in ways that $50,000 in signed papers couldn't fix. Or maybe because I'd learned a truth I'd spent 4 years trying to deny. Money couldn't buy love, but it could definitely reveal who never loved you in the first place. I poured myself 2 fingers of Richard's bourbon, my third glass this week, which probably meant I needed to slow down, and raised it to his photo. "We did it," I said to the empty room. "We protected him, just like you asked me to." The photo didn't answer. It never did. But I like to think Richard would have approved. Or maybe he would have told me I'd interfered too much, controlled too much, used money as a weapon when I should have just let Adrian figure it out himself. I'd never know. What I did know was this. Tomorrow, Sophie had a dentist appointment. Liam had soccer practice. Adrian had another meeting with Marcus about finalizing the divorce, and I had a conference call about a new development project downtown. Life went on. Broken and messy and nothing like the fairy tale I'd imagined when Adrian was born, and Richard was alive and the future felt limitless. But we were together, healing, building something new from the wreckage. And for now, that had to be enough. But enough turned out to be a moving target that kept shifting every time I thought I'd found solid ground. The real trouble started 6 weeks after Vanessa signed the papers. I was at my downtown office, the one nobody knew belonged to me because it was registered under 3 layers of corporate entities, reviewing plans for a mixed-use development on the south side when my assistant Angela buzzed in. "There's a woman here to see you. No appointment. Says it's urgent." "Name?" "Diane Hartley. Says she's Vanessa's mother." My stomach dropped. I'd met Diane exactly twice in 4 years. Once at Adrian and Vanessa's wedding, where she'd worn white and gotten drunk before dinner. Once at Sophie's christening, where she'd made a scene about not being asked to be godmother. "Send her in." Diane Hartley walked into my office like she owned it. Mid-60s, too much plastic surgery, carrying a Birkin bag that probably cost more than most people's cars. She looked around with obvious disdain at my deliberately modest decor. "So this is where you hide," she said. "Interesting. I had to hire a private investigator just to find this place." "Mrs. Hartley, what can I do for you?" "You can undo whatever poison you put in my daughter's marriage." I set down my pen very carefully. "Your daughter destroyed her own marriage. Multiple affairs, fraud, planned abandonment of her children. I didn't poison anything. I just exposed the rot." "That's your version. Vanessa tells it very differently." "I'm sure she does. Con artists usually do." Diane's eyes flashed. "My daughter is not a con artist. She's a woman who made mistakes in a difficult marriage to a man who was still attached to his mother's apron strings. Your daughter stole over $2 million and was planning to abandon her children in a foreign country. Those aren't mistakes. Those are crimes. She would never abandon Sophie and Liam. There were 2 tickets to Barcelona. 2, not 4. She was leaving them behind. She was going to send for them later. That's what she told you. And you believed her because you've been enabling her behavior your whole life." I stood up. "What do you want, Diane?" "Because I have work to do. I want you to reinstate Vanessa's parental rights. Let her see her children. Give her another chance." "Absolutely not. She's their mother. She signed away her rights, voluntarily, in exchange for avoiding criminal prosecution. Because you forced her to. You and that vindictive son of yours." "Careful," I said quietly. "You're talking about my son. In my office. Using information you obtained by hiring someone to stalk me. I'd watch my next words very carefully if I were you." Diane's face flushed red. "You can't keep a mother from her children. I'll sue. I'll go to the media. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of manipulative witch you really are." "Go ahead, please. I'd love to see how the media reacts to learning about Vanessa's offshore accounts and multiple affairs. Very sympathetic story, I'm sure. You think you're so smart, so powerful, hiding behind your money?" "I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm standing right here, in my own office, in a building I own, in a company I built. You're the one who had to hire an investigator because you're too incompetent to find public records." "Public records?" She laughed. "These aren't public. Your name isn't on anything." "Because I'm smart. Unlike your daughter, who was stupid enough to create a paper trail even a first-year law student could follow." Diane stepped closer, and I could smell the wine on her breath. It was 11 in the morning. "You will regret this," she said. "I promise you, you will regret taking my grandchildren away from their mother." "I didn't take them anywhere. Their mother left. I just made sure she couldn't come back and hurt them again." "We'll see about that." She turned and walked out, slamming my office door hard enough to rattle the diplomas on the wall. Angela appeared 30 seconds later. Should I call security? No, just make a note of the visit. Date, time, threats made. We might need it later. She threatened you? Vaguely. The kind of threat that gives plausible deniability, but lets me know she's planning something. I wasn't wrong. 2 days later, I got a call from Sophie's school. The principal, Mrs. Winters, sounded nervous. Mrs. Mercer, we had an incident this afternoon. A woman claiming to be Sophie's grandmother tried to pick her up early. My blood went cold. What woman? Diane Hartley. She had identification and seemed very convincing. Said there was a family emergency and she needed to take Sophie to the hospital. Where's Sophie now? Safe. In my office. We followed protocol and called Adrian first. He confirmed Mrs. Hartley wasn't authorized and asked us to call you. I'm on my way. I made the 20-minute drive in 12 minutes. Found Sophie in the principal's office eating cookies and looking confused. Grandma, what's happening? The lady said Mom was in the hospital. I knelt down in front of her. Mom's not in the hospital, sweetie. She's fine. The lady made a mistake. But she said she was my grandma too. My other grandma. She is. But she's not allowed to pick you up from school. Only me and your dad. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. Why not? Doesn't she like me? How do you explain to an 8-year-old that her grandmother is trying to kidnap her on behalf of a mother who abandoned her? You don't. You lie again. She likes you very much. There was just some confusion about the rules. It's all fixed now. Mrs. Winters walked me out while Adrian's nanny, a woman named Beth I'd hired 2 weeks ago, stayed with Sophie. I'm sorry this happened, Mrs. Winters said. Mrs. Hartley was very convincing, had pictures of Sophie on her phone, knew details about her life. If we hadn't called Adrian first, but you did. Thank you for following protocol. Should we call the police? I thought about it, weighed the options. Not yet, but I want Diane Hartley added to the no-contact list. If she shows up again, call the police immediately. Done. That night, Adrian and I had another emergency meeting at my kitchen table. The kids were upstairs watching a movie, completely unaware their grandmother had tried to take Sophie that afternoon. I'm getting a restraining order, Adrian said. Against Diane. Maybe against Vanessa, too, just to be safe. Good. Do it tomorrow. This is insane. They actually think they can just take the kids? They think they have rights. Diane's probably convinced herself that we're the villains and Vanessa's the victim. She's rewriting history to make her daughter look better. What if she tries again? What if next time, we'll be ready. I'm hiring security. Someone to watch the kids at school, at soccer, everywhere. We're not taking chances. Jesus, Mom, security? For 8-year-olds? Would you rather risk Diane succeeding next time? He slumped in his chair. No, God, no, When does this end? When do we get to just live normal lives? When they give up. Or when we make it clear there are consequences they can't afford. The restraining order was granted within 48 hours. Diane Hartley was prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Adrian, the kids, or me. She violated it 3 days later by showing up at my house at 2 a.m, drunk and screaming. The police came, arrested her. She spent the night in jail. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. But Diane wasn't the only problem. While we were dealing with her, Vanessa's lawyer dropped a bomb. Despite signing the settlement agreement, despite relinquishing parental rights, Vanessa was now claiming she'd signed under duress, that I'd threatened her, manipulated her, forced her to give up her children against her will. She was filing to have the agreement voided. Can she do that? Adrian asked Marcus. She can try. Proving duress is difficult, but if she gets the right judge, how is offering her money to avoid prison duress? That's what we'll argue. But Evelyn, there's something else. Marcus pulled out a folder. Vanessa's claiming you orchestrated the entire thing, that you manipulated Adrian into leaving her, planted evidence of affairs, faked financial records, all to destroy her marriage and steal her children. I stared at him. That's insane. It's a strategy. If she can paint you as a manipulative villain, she might get sympathy from a judge, the rich, powerful mother-in-law who couldn't stand to share her son. I didn't plan anything. Leonard found real evidence. I know. But her lawyer's arguing that you had the means and motive to fabricate it. They're requesting a full forensic audit of all the financial evidence. Fine. Audit it. It'll hold up. It will, Marcus agreed. But it'll take months. Cost a fortune. And in the meantime, Vanessa gets to play the victim in court and the media. Adrian looked at me. Mom, I'm sorry. This is my mess, and you're getting dragged into... Stop. This is our mess. Hers, yours, mine. We're in it together. But if they're accusing you of fraud, then they're idiots, and we'll prove it. I turned to Marcus. File a counter-motion. Malicious prosecution. I want Vanessa and her lawyer sanctioned for bringing frivolous claims. That's aggressive. So am I. The legal battle consumed the next 3 months. Depositions, court hearings. Forensic accountants crawling through every transaction I'd made in the past 10 years. It was invasive, exhausting, and infuriating. But they found nothing, because there was nothing to find. Every piece of evidence Leonard had compiled was real. Every affair documented. Every offshore account traced. Vanessa's lawyer tried to poke holes, but the truth was the truth, and it didn't change just because she wanted it to. Meanwhile, the kids were falling apart. Sophie started having panic attacks at school, full-blown hyperventilating, crying, convinced something bad was going to happen. The school counselor called it separation anxiety. I called it trauma from watching her family implode. Liam got into a fight on the playground, punched another kid who asked where his mom was. Got suspended for 3 days. Adrian tried to hold it together. Went to every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference, every therapy appointment. But I could see him cracking, losing weight, not sleeping, staring at nothing during dinner. We need help, I told him one night after Sophie woke up screaming from another nightmare. Real help. Not just therapy for the kids, therapy for you. I'm fine. You're not fine. None of us are fine. What am I supposed to do, Mom? Fall apart? I'm all they have. They have me too. And right now they need you to be okay more than they need you to pretend everything's okay. I don't know how to do that. Start by admitting you're struggling, then let people help you. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I miss her. Vanessa? No. The person I thought she was. The woman I married. The mother of my kids. I miss the life I thought we had, even though I know now it was all fake. That's grief. You're allowed to grieve what you lost, even if it wasn't real. It feels stupid, grieving a lie. It's not stupid. It's human. 2 weeks later, the judge threw out Vanessa's motion, called it exactly what it was, a desperate attempt to avoid consequences. He upheld the original settlement and added another provision. Vanessa was prohibited from filing any further motions regarding custody or parental rights for 5 years. We'd won. Again. But the victories were starting to feel hollow, because meanwhile my company was suffering. I'd been so focused on the legal battle that I'd missed warning signs in a development deal on the west side. A contractor had been cutting corners, using substandard materials, bribing inspectors. The building failed an independent safety inspection. Had to be torn down. Cost me $8 million and a reputation I'd spent decades building. The business news sites had a field day. Mercer Development Group falls from grace. Corporate giant fumbles major project. Evelyn Mercer's empire shows cracks. My board called an emergency meeting, suggested maybe I needed to step back, take some time, let younger leadership take over. I was being pushed out of my own company. They can't do that, Adrian said when I told him. It's your company. You built it. And I've been distracted for months. They're not wrong. You've been protecting your family. I've been letting my business fall apart while I fight battles with your ex-wife. There's a difference. So what are you going to do? I looked at him, at this man I'd raised and protected and nearly lost, at the grandchildren playing in the next room, at the life we'd built from the wreckage of Vanessa's destruction. I'm going to choose, I said. For the first time in my life, I'm going to actually choose what matters instead of trying to do everything. What does that mean? It means I'm stepping down as CEO, appointing new leadership, staying on the board but letting someone else run day-to-day operations. Mom, no. It's already decided. I'm announcing it next week. But that company is everything to you. No, I interrupted. It was everything to your father. I made it everything to me because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Keep his legacy alive, prove I was capable. But you know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of proving myself to people who don't matter. I'm tired of sacrificing what I actually care about for a business that will keep running fine without me. What do you care about? I gestured around the room. This, you, the kids, having dinner together and fighting about homework and watching Liam's terrible soccer games where he spends more time picking flowers than playing. Adrian's eyes filled with tears. We ruined your life. You saved it. You and Sophie and Liam. You reminded me what actually matters. We cost you millions of dollars and your company, and you gave me purpose. Real purpose. Not the kind that looks good on paper, but the kind that means something at 3 a.m. when Sophie has a nightmare and needs her grandma. He hugged me then. A real hug. The kind where you hold on because letting go feels impossible. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway. The announcement went public the following Monday. Evelyn Mercer stepping down as CEO of Mercer Development Group after 7 years at the helm. The business press speculated wildly. Health issues, board coup, scandal. Nobody guessed the truth that I'd simply decided my grandchildren mattered more than real estate. But stepping down didn't mean stepping away. I still had the board seat, still had influence, still had enough power to make sure the company stayed on track. What I didn't have anymore was the crushing weight of trying to be everything to everyone. For the first time since Richard died, I could breathe. That's when Vanessa made her final play. She showed up at Adrian's office, got past security by claiming she was there for a business meeting, cornered him in the parking garage. He called me from his car, voice shaking. She wants to talk. Says she has information about Diane, something about a lawsuit. Don't meet with her. It's a trap. She says if I don't meet with her, Diane's going to sue for grandparents' rights. Claims she has a case because we're denying access to the kids. Grandparents' rights don't work that way in Illinois. Not when there's a restraining order. But what if she's right? What if... Adrian, stop. Think. Vanessa's a liar. Whatever she's telling you is designed to manipulate you into doing what she wants. Don't fall for it. Silence on the other end. Adrian, what if she's changed? What if she really wants to make things right? And there it was. The thing I'd been dreading. The part of Adrian that still wanted to believe in redemption and second chances and people fundamentally changing. She hasn't changed, I said firmly. People like Vanessa don't change. They just get better at lying. You don't know that. I know she's been lying to you for 4 years. I know she stole from us. I know she was planning to abandon your children. What could she possibly say that would make any of that okay? His voice cracked. I just want this to be over. I want to stop fighting. I want the kids to have their mother back. The mother they had wasn't real. You can't get back something that never existed. Maybe I need to hear her out, just once. Get closure. Closure is what she's going to tell you it is. She'll manipulate you, make you doubt everything, and suck you back into her games. Is that what you want? No, but I can't keep wondering what if for the rest of my life. I understood. I did. But understanding didn't make it less terrifying. If you meet with her, I said carefully, you do it in public, with witnesses, and you record everything. I'm not recording, then you don't meet with her at all. Those are the terms. Public place, witnesses, recording, or nothing. He agreed reluctantly. Set up the meeting for the next day at a coffee shop downtown, brought Marcus with him as a witness, used his phone to record the whole conversation. I waited at home, pacing, checking my phone every 30 seconds. When Adrian finally called back, his voice was different, harder. You were right. What happened? She tried to convince me you'd been embezzling from the company, that the bad development deal was you covering your tracks. That if I didn't help her get custody, she'd go to the police and the media with evidence that you're a fraud. My stomach dropped. Evidence? Fake documents, forged signatures. She must have paid someone to create them. They look real, Mom. Really real. Did she show them to Marcus? Yeah, he took pictures. Says they won't hold up to scrutiny, but they're good enough to create doubt, to start investigations that could take years to resolve. She's threatening to destroy me if you don't give her what she wants. That's the gist of it. Said if I help her get the kids back, she'll make the evidence disappear. If not, she goes nuclear. I sat down heavily. What did you say? I told her to go to hell. Told her I'd rather watch her try to destroy you than give her one more second with my children. Then I walked out. Pride and terror warred in my chest. Pride that Adrian had finally seen through her completely. Terror at what Vanessa might do now. She won't stop, I said. This is just the beginning. She'll leak those documents, start rumors, make our lives hell until we give in. Then we don't give in. We fight. Together. Adrian, you don't understand. She could really hurt us. Destroy the company. Ruin both our reputations. I don't care. His voice was steel. I don't care what she does to us. She's not getting near Sophie and Liam. That's the line. That's the one thing I won't negotiate. And right then, I realized something. My son had finally grown up. Not the way I'd planned or hoped. Not through success or achievement, but through loss, through betrayal, through learning what mattered when everything else was stripped away. Okay, I said. Then we fight. Together? Together. Vanessa released the forged documents 2 days later, sent them to business journalists, competitors, regulators, claimed Evelyn Mercer had been running a shell game for years. Embezzling, fraud, all lies but convincing lies. The investigation started immediately. Securities and Exchange Commission, state regulators, federal prosecutors. My lawyers assured me the documents wouldn't hold up, that forensic analysis would prove they were fake. But the damage was already done. My reputation, carefully built over decades, was shredded in days. Clients pulled contracts. Partners distanced themselves. The board called another emergency meeting to discuss whether I should resign entirely. I sat in that boardroom and looked at people I'd worked with for years, people who'd made fortunes because of my decisions. And I watched them throw me aside the second things got difficult. Fine, I said. I resign, effective immediately, not because I did anything wrong, but because you're all cowards who care more about optics than truth. I walked out of my own company and didn't look back. Adrian found me that night sitting in Richard's study, surrounded by boxes of documents I was packing up. Evidence of my innocence that I'd need for the legal battles ahead. They believed her, I said. After everything I built, after everything I gave them. They believed a con artist over me. Then they don't deserve you. I spent 40 years building that company. It was supposed to be my legacy. We're your legacy, Adrian said quietly. Me and Sophie and Liam. Not some buildings, not some company. Us. That's easy to say when you're not the one losing everything. You haven't lost everything. You still have us. I looked at my son, at this man who'd finally learned what mattered, who'd chosen his children over his wife, who'd chosen truth over comfort. You're right, I said. I do still have you, and we're not going anywhere. No matter what Vanessa does, no matter how bad this gets, we're family, real family, the kind that doesn't run when things get hard. He helped me pack boxes. We didn't talk much, just worked together in comfortable silence. And for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt since that night at Giovanni's. Hope. Hope, as it turned out, was a fragile thing that could be crushed by a phone call at 6 a.m. I woke to Adrian pounding on my bedroom door. Mom, wake up! I stumbled out of bed, heart racing. What's wrong? Are the kids okay? The kids are fine, but you need to see this. He shoved his phone at me. The headline made my blood run cold. Mercer development exec arrested in embezzlement scheme. But it wasn't me in the photo being led away in handcuffs. It was my former CFO, Robert Chen, a man I'd trusted for 12 years. I don't understand, I said, scanning the article. Robert, he's the one who actually embezzled funds. The feds found real evidence. Offshore accounts in his name, falsified records, everything. And Mom, Adrian's voice shook. The forged documents Vanessa released, they were based on Robert's real crimes. She just changed the names to make it look like you were the one doing it. How did she even know about Robert? She didn't. She got lucky. Or unlucky, depending on how you look at it. The investigators found the pattern of fraud she claimed you committed. Except it was Robert all along. He's been stealing from the company for years. I sat down on my bed trying to process. So Vanessa's fake evidence accidentally pointed to a real crime committed by someone else? Exactly. And now the feds are saying your resignation looks suspicious. Like you knew about Robert and were trying to distance yourself before it came out. That's insane. I had no idea. I know that. Marcus knows that. But the optics are terrible. He ran his hands through his hair. This is a nightmare. We clear your name from Vanessa's lies, only to have you implicated in someone else's actual crimes. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all, fighting off false accusations only to be caught in the blast radius of real ones. Mom, this isn't funny. It's hilarious in the worst possible way. I wiped my eyes. What do we do? We cooperate. Fully. Marcus is already drafting a statement. We turn over every document, every email, prove you had nothing to do with Robert's fraud. And if they don't believe us? Adrian's jaw tightened. Then we fight. Again. Like we always do. The investigation consumed the next 4 weeks. Federal agents in my house, my office, going through 40 years of financial records. They interviewed everyone I'd ever worked with, questioned my decisions, treated me like a criminal. But the evidence, real evidence, not Vanessa's forgeries, told the truth. I'd had nothing to do with Robert's embezzlement. In fact, my careful oversight had limited how much he could steal. The investigators found emails where I'd questioned discrepancies, flagged unusual transactions, pushed for audits. I wasn't a criminal. I was the person who almost caught the criminal before he'd resigned and disappeared. The charges were dropped. My name cleared. The business press ran corrections and apologies. But the damage was done. Mercer Development Group's stock had tanked. Clients had fled. The board had already appointed new leadership and made it clear I wasn't welcome back. I'd lost my company. Not to Vanessa's lies or Robert's crimes, but to the simple fact that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. I'm sorry, Marcus said when he delivered the news. The board voted unanimously. They're afraid your presence would hurt the company's recovery. The company I built. I know. The company that wouldn't exist without me. I know, Evelyn, it's not fair, but it's business. Business. The thing I'd devoted my entire adult life to. The thing I'd sacrificed time with my son for, missed birthdays and school plays and ordinary moments for. And it had discarded me the second I became inconvenient. I called a press conference, not to fight or argue or beg for my job back, to make a statement. 40 years ago, I told the assembled reporters, I helped build Mercer Development Group from a small real estate office into one of Chicago's largest property management companies. I did it quietly, behind the scenes, because I believed the work mattered more than the recognition. Today, I'm stepping away from that company permanently. Not because I did anything wrong, but because I've learned something valuable in the past few months. Buildings are just buildings. Companies are just companies. What matters, what actually endures, is family. The real kind. The kind that shows up when everything falls apart and doesn't run when things get hard. The reporters shouted questions. I ignored them all and walked away. That night, Sophie asked me if I was sad about losing my job. A little, I admitted. We were making cookies, chocolate chip, her favorite. Liam was at soccer practice with Adrian. But you were the boss. How can they fire the boss? Because being the boss doesn't mean you own people's loyalty. It just means you own the responsibility when things go wrong. She thought about that while pressing cookie cutters into dough. That seems unfair. It is unfair. Lots of things are unfair. Then why do people say life is fair? People who say that are liars or idiots. I caught myself. Don't repeat that. She grinned. Can I tell Liam? Absolutely not. We worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Sophie said, I'm glad you're here more now, since you don't have to work all the time. Something in my chest cracked open. Yeah? Even though I'm kind of strict about homework? Even though. Mom never helped with homework. She said it was boring. The casual way she said it, like her mother was just someone who used to be around, not a gaping wound in her life, made me realize how resilient children are. How they adapt and survive and find new normals. Well, I think homework is boring too, I said, but I'll still help you with it. That's what makes you a good grandma. I hugged her then, this small, fierce girl who'd lost her mother and gained a grandmother and somehow wasn't completely broken by it all. I love you, Sophie Bear. Love you too. Can we put extra chocolate chips in these? Absolutely. 2 days later, Vanessa made her final mistake. She showed up at Liam's soccer game. just appeared in the stands like she had every right to be there. The security guard I'd hired spotted her immediately and called me. I was there in 8 minutes. Found her sitting 3 rows up, wearing sunglasses, pretending to be just another parent. "You need to leave," I said quietly. She didn't even look at me. "It's a public park. I can sit wherever I want." "You're violating the custody agreement. Leave or I call the police." "Go ahead. Call them. I'd love to explain to the officers how you've been keeping a mother from her children. You signed away your parental rights. Under duress. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows you're a liar and a thief." She finally turned to look at me. Behind the sunglasses, her eyes were cold. "You think you've won. You think you've destroyed me, but I'm still their mother. Biology doesn't change just because you've got more money and better lawyers." Biology and motherhood aren't the same thing. You're not their mother anymore. You're just the woman who gave birth to them and then walked away. "I didn't walk away. You forced me out." People were starting to stare. On the field, Liam had stopped playing, was looking up at the stands with a confused expression. "Leave," I said again, "before you traumatize him more than you already have." "I just want to see my son play soccer." "You had 4 years to watch him play soccer. You chose to spend that time stealing my money and sleeping with your boyfriend. You don't get to suddenly play concerned mother now." She stood up, took off the sunglasses. Her face was different than I remembered. Harder, older, like the mask had finally worn away completely. "You really think you're better than me, don't you? The perfect grandmother, the saint who saved her poor son from his terrible wife." "I think I'm someone who protects her family, that's all." "Your family?" She laughed. "You bought your family, Evelyn. Every relationship you have is built on money. Without your fortune, Adrian wouldn't give you the time of day. The kids wouldn't finish that sentence and I'll forget I'm a lady." Something in my voice must have convinced her I meant it. She stepped back. "This isn't over," she said. "Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet." She left, got in her car and drove away while Liam watched from the field, his small face confused and hurt. I wanted to go to him, explain, comfort, but Adrian was already there, kneeling down, talking to him, being the father Liam needed. That's when I realized something. Adrian didn't need me to fix everything anymore. He'd learned to fix things himself. The realization should have felt like freedom. Instead, it felt like loss. That night, after the kids were in bed, I found Adrian in the kitchen staring at his laptop. "What are you looking at?" "Houses. I've been saving money for my actual salary. Not much, but enough for a down payment on something small. I think it's time we moved out. Gave you your space back." My heart clenched. "You don't have to." "I do, actually. We can't live with you forever. The kids need stability, their own rooms, a place that's ours." "This is yours. I told you." "You told me I could stay temporarily while we figured things out. It's been 5 months, Mom. We've figured it out. Time to stand on our own feet." "What about Vanessa? What if She won't." Marcus got a call this afternoon. Vanessa's leaving Chicago, moving to New York with Daniel Kramer. She's done fighting. I sat down slowly. "She's really giving up?" "Her lawyer says she's tired. The legal bills are crushing her. The settlement money's almost gone. And Daniel apparently proposed. She's choosing her new life over fighting for her old one." "Just like that? After everything?" "Just like that. Apparently love, or whatever she calls it, won out over motherhood." He closed the laptop. "I should be happy. This is what I wanted. But I just feel empty." "Because you still hoped she'd wake up one day and realize what she lost." "Yeah, stupid, right?" "Not stupid. Human." I took his hand. "But she won't wake up, Adrian. People like Vanessa, they don't have those revelations. They just move on to the next thing." "And we're supposed to do what? Just accept that my kids don't have a mother?" "They have a father and a grandmother and each other. That's more than a lot of kids have." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "You know what's funny? When I was little, I used to think you were kind of cold, distant, always working, always busy. I wanted Mom, the one who baked cookies and came to school plays, not the businesswoman who barely made it to dinner." The words hurt more than I expected. "Your father needed me to be that person. The company needed..." I'm not criticizing. I'm saying I understand now. You were building something, providing, making sure we had security. I just didn't appreciate it until I had to do it myself. Your father would be proud of you, of the father you've become. Would he? Or would he be disappointed I let my marriage fall apart? Your marriage fell apart because you married someone who didn't love you. That's not failure, that's survival. Adrian smiled, sad and small. When did you get so wise? Around the time I realized wisdom is just another word for having survived a lot of stupid decisions. We both laughed. It felt good, normal, like maybe we were finally healing, but the peace didn't last. 3 weeks later, Diane Hartley sued for grandparents' rights, filed a motion claiming Adrian and I were denying her access to her grandchildren without cause, that Vanessa had been forced out of the kids' lives, and Diane deserved the chance to maintain the maternal family connection. Marcus was blunt in his assessment. She doesn't have a case. Illinois law is clear. Grandparents' rights don't supersede parental decisions except in extreme circumstances. And given the restraining order, so we fight it and win? Probably, but it'll take time, court dates, hearings, more legal bills, and she knows that. This is harassment disguised as litigation. Can we countersue? For what? Being a pain in the ass isn't illegal. It should be. The hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, Diane started a social media campaign, posted photos of Sophie and Liam from when they were babies, claimed she was being erased from their lives, painted herself as a grieving grandmother fighting an unjust system. It went viral. Thousands of shares, news outlets picked it up. Suddenly I was the villain again, the wealthy, controlling grandmother keeping innocent children from their loving family. The narrative was so backwards, it would have been funny if it wasn't destroying my reputation all over again. I'm tired, I told Adrian after another reporter called my house asking for comment. I'm so tired of fighting. Then stop. Don't give them a statement. Don't engage. Let Marcus handle it and ignore the rest. They're calling me a monster, saying I manipulate you, that I'm psychologically abusing the kids, and the people who know it's bullshit. Everyone else doesn't matter. Easy for you to say. You're not the one they're tearing apart. No, I'm just the weak son who can't stand up to his controlling mother. Trust me, they're not being kind to either of us. He was right. The internet had opinions about everything and facts about nothing. So I stopped reading, stopped watching the news, focused on what mattered. Pancake breakfast with Liam, homework help with Sophie, ordinary days that felt extraordinary because we were together. The hearing came. Diane showed up with her expensive lawyer and her crocodile tears, testified about how much she loved her grandchildren, how she'd been unjustly excluded from their lives. Marcus destroyed her on cross-examination, brought up the attempted school pickup, the restraining order violation, the arrest, presented evidence of Diane's own troubled history, multiple DUIs, substance abuse issues, a pattern of unstable behavior. The judge took 15 minutes to rule, denied Diane's petition, upheld the restraining order, added a provision that any future filings would be considered vexatious litigation and result in sanctions. We'd won. Again. Finally. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I ignored them, but Diane didn't. "This isn't justice," she screamed at the cameras. "They're keeping my grandchildren from me. They're destroying my family." I stopped walking, turned back. "Your family destroyed itself," I said clearly. "Your daughter is a con artist who abandoned her children. You're an enabler who helped her. Neither of you deserves access to Sophie and Liam, and neither of you will get it. That's not me being controlling. That's me being a grandmother who actually loves them." "You bought them. You bought your son. Everything you have is built on money." "You're right. I have money, lots of it. Money I earned by being smarter and working harder than people like you. And I used that money to protect my family from people like your daughter who wanted to destroy it. If that makes me controlling, fine. I'll be controlling, but my grandchildren will grow up safe and loved, and that's worth every penny and every nasty thing you want to say about me." I walked away while she was still screaming. The video went viral, but this time the narrative shifted. People saw a grandmother defending her family, saw the desperation and instability on Diane's face, saw the truth behind the lies. The tide turned. Slowly, then all at once. Support poured in. Messages from other grandparents who'd fought similar battles, from people who'd survived toxic family members, from strangers who just wanted to say they understood. I didn't need their support, but it helped anyway. 6 months after that courthouse confrontation, Adrian closed on a small house in Oak Park. 3 bedrooms, a backyard for the kids, close enough to me that we could have dinner together, but far enough that he could build his own life. I helped them move in. Watched Sophie and Liam run through their new rooms, arguing over who got which closet. Watched Adrian stand in his own kitchen looking proud and terrified. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, this is it. Our new start. No more depending on you." "You can still depend on me, just not financially. I know, but it feels important. Doing this myself, proving I can. You've already proven that every day for the past 6 months." He hugged me. "Thank you for everything, for saving us. You saved yourself. I just gave you the tools." That night, I went home to my empty house, sat in Richard's study with a glass of bourbon and looked at his photo. "We did it," I said. "Not the way we planned, but we did it." The house felt too quiet, too big. For the first time in decades, I was truly alone, and I was okay with it. The next morning, I got a call from Daniel Foster, an old friend of Richard's, a man I'd known for 30 years but hadn't seen much since the funeral. "Evelyn, I heard about everything that happened. Wanted to check on you." "I'm fine, Daniel. Battered, but standing." "Good. Listen, I know this might be forward, but I'm in town this weekend. Would you want to have dinner? Catch up?" I almost said no. Almost gave him some excuse about being busy or tired or not ready. Then I thought about Sophie asking if I was sad about losing my job, about Adrian saying I'd built my whole life around work, about spending the last 6 months fighting battles instead of living life. "Dinner sounds nice," I said. "Saturday? Perfect. I'll pick you up at 7. Saturday came. I spent too long picking out an outfit, felt ridiculous for caring, wore the navy dress anyway because it made me feel confident. Daniel showed up exactly at 7. Still handsome in that distinguished way men his age could be. Still kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled. "You look beautiful," he said. "You're a liar, but I appreciate the effort." He laughed, still sharp as ever. Dinner was easy. We talked about everything. Richard, the company, the kids, Vanessa's disasters. He listened without judging, offered perspective without trying to fix anything. "You've been through hell," he said over dessert. "But you're still standing. That's remarkable." "I'm stubborn. There's a difference." "No, there's not. Stubborn is just another word for strong when you're talking about surviving." He drove me home, walked me to the door. Didn't try to kiss me, but didn't rush away either. "Can I call you again?" he asked. "I'd like that." "Good. Because I've been wanting to ask you out for 7 years, but the timing never seemed right. It's not great timing now either. I'm kind of a disaster." "Everyone's kind of a disaster, Evelyn. The question is whether you're the kind of disaster I want to be around." "And am I?" He smiled. "Absolutely." That was 8 months ago. Now, standing on the porch of the new house Adrian found for all of us, bigger than his Oak Park place, room for everyone, a yard where the kids could play. I can see how far we've come. Sophie's in therapy. Still has nightmares sometimes, still struggles with trust, but she's smiling more, laughing, being a kid. Liam doesn't talk about Vanessa anymore. Sometimes I catch him looking sad, but when I ask, he just shrugs and says he's fine. He probably isn't. But he's learning to cope. Adrian's dating someone, a teacher from Liam's school. Nice woman, normal, boring in the best possible way. Nothing like Vanessa. He's happy. Cautious, but happy. And me, I'm learning to let go. To accept that my job isn't to control or fix or manage everyone's life. Just to be here, present, available when they need me and quiet when they don't. Mercer Development Group is thriving without me. The new leadership is good, maybe better than I was. That stings, but I'm learning to live with it. I still have money, still have influence, still have the resources to help when needed. But I don't define myself by those things anymore. I'm Evelyn Mercer. Grandmother, mother, friend, woman who survived betrayal and loss and public humiliation and came out the other side. Woman who learned that love isn't something you buy or earn or manipulate. It's something you give freely and receive gratefully and protect fiercely. Daniel's here tonight, helping Adrian with the grill while the kids run around the yard. He catches my eye and winks. I smile back. I'm 63 years old. I've lost a company, a fortune in legal bills, and my reputation twice over. But I've gained something more valuable. A family. A real one. Built not on money or obligation, but on choice. On showing up. On standing together when everything falls apart. Sophie runs over, grass-stained and breathless. "Grandma, come play tag." "I'm too old for tag." "No, you're not. Please." I look at this child who lost her mother and found her grandmother and somehow still believes in joy, who still trusts enough to ask me to play. Fine, but I'm going to be slow. That's okay. Dad's slower. We play until the sun sets and the mosquitoes come out and someone's stomach rumbles loudly enough to make everyone laugh. Inside, we crowd around the table. Adrian and his girlfriend Sarah, the kids, Daniel, me. We pass dishes and argue over who gets the last piece of corn and talk over each other like families do. This is it, I think. This is what I was fighting for. Not the house or the money or the victory over Vanessa. Just this. Ordinary moments with people who choose to be here, who don't want anything from me except my presence. Later, after everyone's gone home and the kids are in bed, I stand in my new kitchen washing dishes and thinking about that night at Giovanni's, about the shattered plate and the word pathetic, and the humiliation that nearly broke me. That woman, the one who walked out of that restaurant alone and crying, feels like someone else now. Someone smaller. Someone who didn't know yet what she was capable of. I'm not that woman anymore. I'm the woman who fought back, who protected her family, who lost almost everything and still came out standing. And standing, I've learned, is its own kind of victory. My phone buzzes. A text from Sophie. "Grandma, I forgot to tell you I love you, good night." I smile and text back, "Love you too, Sophie Bear. Sweet dreams." Another text, this time from Adrian. "Thanks for today, Mom. For everything." "Anytime," I reply. That's what family does. And it's true. Family shows up. Family fights. Family forgives. Family chooses each other every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I finish the dishes, turn off the lights, and head upstairs to my room. In this house that's new but starting to feel like home. Tomorrow, there will be more challenges, more struggles. Life doesn't stop being difficult just because you've survived one battle. But tomorrow, I won't face them alone. And that makes all the difference.